This is 1 Horton Heath. The 310-acre site has 2 planning permissions for major developments, but having gained planning permission, the development stalled and were never actually delivered. In 2018, Eastleigh Borough Council bought the entire site, stepping in where the private sector had failed to deliver. The council is committed to self-delivering the development, to doing development better and putting people at the heart of its vision. A team of experts has now been assembled within the council to run the project and to ensure that it aligns with the vision. It's important to make sure that the project remains commercially responsible, but also that we recognise that value is not just financial. Meaningful community engagement has to be at the heart of our planning process if we're going to achieve our vision. Early and engaging dialogue is really important to ensure that our design decisions are fully informed by the knowledge and aspiration that the local community can bring to the table. With that in mind, a local development forum was established early in the process, bringing together key stakeholders and community representatives who can understand and guide our decision choices and be a part of the emerging design process. This open and transparent process provides ongoing opportunities for dialogue and is underpinned as well by the recent creation of our bespoke 1 Horton Heath website. We're now going to hear from Seb Willett of Claig Architects. Claig have been appointed for a number of aspects of the design process, including the design code for the whole project, and also the layout and detail designs that accompany our application for the first houses on the site. As part of that process, Claig and particularly Seb have had a chance to really get to know the site well, to understand the council's aspirations for the project, but also to engage with the development forum and some of the members of the public to understand their thought processes and the things that we can build into the development.
The council's vision for 1 Horton Heath is, at its core, to create an enduring and attractive place to live and work for generations to come, a settlement in the very truest sense of the word. The word settlement is a powerful one, as it suggests the idea of people dwelling in peace with their surroundings. The places that we treasure, consciously and unconsciously, are often those that have settled organically over the years. They respond dynamically to the needs of the communities that live there and in harmony with their natural landscape settings. To discover how we can build in the spirit of this harmony, our design process begins with trying to understand what makes a place, what makes a village, what makes a home, what makes a street, and how these places have developed their character in the landscape of Hampshire. The river valleys of the county are one of the most important aspects to consider when trying to understand this sense of place, this genius loci. Most of the big old towns in the county have grown up from the rivers, and each has developed its own unique industry: fishing along the Test, farms and markets in the Hamble, old rail links to Fareham in the Meon, and the main important link between Southampton and Winchester and London through the Itchen. A vast mesh of smaller places has grown up between these industrious river valleys, sitting on the fertile downlands which can support huge swathes of farmland. Where these are better connected to the bigger local centres, they've grown much faster and in some instances lost their own unique identity. Otherwise, these towns and villages have been much slower to expand, and most have stayed quite small. Horton Heath is one of these much smaller places, and historically only a minor focal point for a cluster of loosely connected farmsteads. The existing village is rather typical of the heathland settlements, with gentle ribbon growth along the key roads through it. But most importantly, the whole area sits in the rolling fields between the Itchen and the Hamble river valleys. The site of 1 Horton Heath is immediately to the west of the existing village and is broadly made up of 3 old farmsteads: Chalcroft Farm in the south, Fir Tree Farm in the north, and the extinct Foxhole Farm to the east. The northern part of the site, around the old core of Fir Tree Farm, is very well enclosed, with established field boundaries and tree belts, undulating terrain, and cobbly woods and stream. The southern part of the site, around Chalcroft, is much more open, with fewer divided fields, and is generally much flatter. There is a huge variety of well-established and valuable natural habitats at 1 Horton Heath. This includes nationally protected sites of important nature conservation, which we must protect in the design. The gently rolling terrain of the site means that there are many natural watercourses and ponds across 1 Horton Heath. Although these range in size from very small streams all the way up to the largest and deepest ponds, they're all important for both drainage and ecology. Most of these all fall away from the existing village and connect up along the western boundary. These watercourses then create an important network of ecology corridors that safely connect the various habitats up and down and around the site. This network is then filled out by the more established field boundaries and woodland belts, creating a woven mesh of ecological connectivity across One Horton Heath that we must consider untouchable. This does mean that the development can go neatly in between without interfering or affecting these key corridors. But we must also recognise that although we aren't deliberately harming any of these protected areas, the development will indirectly affect them. Although almost all of the existing landscape features of the site will be preserved and enhanced, we're also setting aside enough land to provide significant ecological improvements across One Horton Heath. This includes land around Cobley Woods and the pond in the north, and land at Round Copse in the south. These areas have been chosen because they can weave back into the existing network of habitats and provide the greatest quality benefit. This means that even once all of the new development has been built, One Horton Heath will provide a net biodiversity gain. It's only once that all of these key landscape characteristics have been understood, protected and preserved that we can start to consider where the development will fit in. To help us decide where the best places for different types of development will be at One Horton Heath, we also need to understand how and where people will want to go. Based on the previous approvals, work has already started on the new roundabouts which connect Bub Lane and Burnett's Lane in the south with Allington Lane in the north. This new link is a vital part of the master plan that will help relieve traffic pressure in Horton Heath between Hedge End and Eastleigh Town. The new roundabout at Allington Lane will keep the old road alignment as a footpath that runs along the edge of the existing properties, with new driveways and planting going in as well. The most important part of this area is the new ecological enhancements, which stretch all the way from Allington Lane to Cobley Woods. Historic field boundaries will be reinstated and reinforced with entire new areas of woodland planting and wetland habitat. At Bub Lane and Burnett's Lane, the first part of the new link road is already being built as well. It will cross over the field from Bub Lane and join Burnett's Lane between the existing houses. The new roundabout here has been designed to give Chalcroft Business Park a more direct route out onto the main roads, avoiding Burnett's Lane altogether. The southern part of Burnett's Lane will actually be stopped up entirely, and only pedestrians and cyclists will be able to come from this direction. The existing houses will still be able to drive up from the south, over the railway. Burnett's Lane to the north will still go into Horton Heath, but we're working with the residents there to help return this to a quieter rural lane. This north-south link creates an important piece of infrastructure through One Horton Heath, and is the primary movement corridor through the master plan. There are also a number of west-east routes that cross the site, and these create a secondary network of movement. Now that we know broadly how and where the site connects into its context, we can start to think about what the development can do. As a starting point, it must support the existing community assets in Horton Heath. This includes the community core in the centre of the village, the employment core at the business park, and the historic cores at Chalcroft and Fir Tree Farm on the site. The design of the new master plan means that we can expand and enhance these community nodes within One Horton Heath, a new local centre that benefits both the existing and proposed homes, a new employment area next to the business park, and some renewed non-residential uses at Fir Tree Farm and Chalcroft Farm. These have been located to encourage walking and cycling along the existing network of footpaths in and around the site, and create a series of attractive natural routes and destinations as part of One Horton Heath. As well as encouraging walking and cycling, we're looking at different ways of discouraging too much traffic from using the existing country lanes. The new development will be accessed from the new link road, and no new routes are proposed through Horton Heath itself. Fir Tree Lane will be partially downgraded between the farm core and the new local centre, creating a more direct walking and cycling only link between the two areas. A new road just to the south will help take cars away from this route. Burnett's Lane will stay open, but we're looking at different ideas on how we can reduce the number of cars along here to benefit the existing residents. Based on the land that we can develop once we've protected those key landscape assets, One Horton Heath will provide up to 2,500 new homes. These will be a variety of sizes and tenures to meet the needs of the borough, but will be a minimum of 35% affordable. The council are putting infrastructure first, so the new link road is already being built as previously approved. The untouchable green and blue landscape infrastructure will be protected and reinforced with significant new green links and public open spaces. All of the new homes will be specially designed to suit their landscape context, whether that's along existing natural edges or within new landscape commons within the site, around the sensitive historic cores or in the busy new local centre. The master plan also has new community facilities at the local centre, a primary school, sports pitches and employment areas. Apart from setting the general areas where the different new uses will be and how they connect, the overall master plan is only being laid out in outline at this stage. This means that we're still in the early stages of testing some of our more detailed design ideas for areas like Fir Tree Farm and the local centre. These are amongst the most sensitive and complex places at Horton Heath, so it's important that we spend more time testing our ideas and consulting with the community on them. These sketch views show how we might approach development in the historic landscape setting of Fir Tree Farm and how we might create something more adventurous in the new local centre. These are just our first ideas, and we plan to continue working with the community on what might happen in these places. Jess Lloyd is our highways engineer from Paul Bash & Associates, and she will now talk through some of our more detailed plans for footpath and road improvements.
The Council are committed to developing a sustainable site which integrates with the existing Horton Heath settlement, with the master plan focusing on securing appropriate routes for pedestrians, cyclists and public transport users. For example, the site's eastern boundary connects with several existing public rights-of-way routes, and the development is proposing to enhance these routes and ensure seamless connectivity between the existing Horton Heath area and the proposed development site. The master plan has also considered integration with local bus services to future-proof public transport use through the site, and liaison is ongoing with local bus operators, including Blue Star and Zelabus. The development team are also considering how to best cater and provide for electric vehicles to help alleviate certain impacts associated with traffic. As local transport consultants who travel within and through Horton Heath, we are aware firsthand of the existing issues on the ground. Clearly, a development of this size has the potential to impact traffic flows, and our work is therefore focused on a detailed assessment of the transport network, which is ongoing alongside discussions with Hampshire County Council about how Horton Heath can ensure that it caters for the residents and local businesses in addition to those travelling through the area. Our work has included consideration of a wide area towards Eastleigh, the M3, Hedge End and Southampton, but particularly focuses on those important to this site and the existing Horton Heath residents, including the Allington Lane Fair Oak Road and Sandy Lane Blackberry Drive Fair Oak Road junction, and the wider Bishopstoke Road corridor towards Eastleigh Town Centre. In addition, the Fair Tree Lane, Burnett's Lane and Botley Road corridors will also be a focus for assessing highway capacity and safety. The Botley Road corridor assessment extends north towards Colden Common and through Twyford, and extends south through Horton Heath and towards Borley Green. Tollbar Way corridor from the new roundabout towards Hedge End through the retail park and onto the M27 will also be considered in detail. This corridor is particularly important against the context of the new link road and the pre-existing issues associated with the Chalcroft Business Park and heavy goods vehicles, which the proposed development is likely to have a positive impact in rerouting and better accommodating such vehicles, despite being something which the development is not required to mitigate. The development has already committed over £2.9 million against future improvements along these corridors to ensure and secure the early delivery of infrastructure, with further assessments ongoing alongside Hampshire County Council to firm up the exact location and design of improvements and assess if those proposed previously still remain appropriate.
To help us start designing the master plan in more detail, we've looked at how places would have grown in Hampshire in the past. This helps us to understand how local towns and villages have evolved, responding to the same landscape context that we have at Horton Heath, and what lessons we might learn from those places. The most immediate and relevant type of settlement is the farm heath, as Horton Heath itself once would have been. These types of places would often grow up on the boundaries of large isolated farmsteads, with the lanes between them creating very distinctive fill patterns in the rolling landscape. Further afield, the river villages form the cores of the broader rural communities. These places are usually well established as traditional types of village by the turn of the century. They often have a very wide or flared high street that would provide plenty of space for markets and public gatherings. The valley towns really are the key settlements in the Hampshire landscape. As a result of their rich and varied histories, the urban form of each is entirely individual in terms of scale, purpose and character. They do share a common theme of high-density high street frontages, with public open space behind, often set around one or two key buildings. All of the important lessons that we've learned about the Hampshire vernacular settlement have helped inform our detailed design process for the first new homes at 1 Horton Heath. We understand that the best places are those that embrace their landscape setting and respond sympathetically to their historic context. For that reason, it has been decided that the first new homes will be in the south of 1 Horton Heath. This part of the site gives us the opportunity to design in detail many of the strategies that we will need to use across the whole site, including how we integrate the landscape and historic buildings, how we treat edges shared with existing residents, and what the new road will look like. We've studied how some of the most distinctive local places have grown through history, how they've responded to the needs of their communities, and how they've settled into their landscape context. We're now using these ideas to inform our design process and bring together the benefits of modern building and living to create a sustainable and enduring new type of settlement at 1 Horton Heath. The design of the first new homes is an ongoing process, and we're testing our ideas with landscape architects, ecology specialists, highways and drainage engineers, and the various community representatives. Our guiding concept is a provocative collage of the local settlement types, the field block patterns of the heaths, the long squares of the river villages, and the combination of high density and open spaces in valley towns. We've been very much encouraged by the agricultural heritage of 1 Horton Heath and have used furlongs and acres to dimension the key public parts of the site. Many of these ideas have carried through every stage of the design and will hopefully start to embody that sense of place which is so important. Our plans for the southern part of the site will create up to 500 new homes, including 35% affordable. It will create the southern gateway to the whole site from Burnett's Lane and set the tone for the rest of 1 Horton Heath in the years to come. Our design for the southern gateway will create a place that supports safe and sustainable methods of movement and will encourage walking, cycling and a possible new bus route. 1 Horton Heath has sensitive edges all around, and our work on the first new homes gives us the chance to demonstrate just how we can be a good neighbour, designing to be sensitive to both existing residents and those vital ecological habitats. We've broken down the first new homes into a number of smaller character areas, which lets us design each part to really respond to where it is on the site. The roughits are fingers of green space that delicately weave the edge of 1 Horton Heath with the existing rural character of Burnett's Lane. They've been set out to respond to the position and views of the existing houses, making sure that each has an attractive outlook and setting. A new footpath and cycleway will run along the edge of our site, behind the existing hedgerow which will be kept. This route will allow the existing residents to cross Burnett's Lane safely and walk up to the new local centre. The tolls create a new edge to the historic track up to Chalcroft Farm. The existing hedgerows and watercourse will be kept as a vital part of the landscape here, with new tree planting to strengthen the character and enhance the distinctiveness of this edge. The new homes will sit behind these layers of existing and proposed planting, the watercourse, and the new footpaths to create a linear place that reinforces the important landscape character of 1 Horton Heath. The farm gate deals with some of the most sensitive edges of the whole site, including the historic core of Chalcroft Farm and parts of the ancient woodland habitat area. It's also one of the lowest points of the site, which means that we need to carefully design in the new ponds for surface water runoff. Rather than be constrained, we see these as exciting opportunities, and we're able to put together some really active landscape features here. Nature walks, new ecology areas, integrated education and play spaces, all within a few minutes walk of the new homes. The acre sits at the very heart of the new homes, taking precedent from those valley towns to put an acre of green common space behind the main thoroughfare across the site. The acre is being designed to include a variety of different smaller green spaces, each focusing on different types of active play, education and leisure. Most importantly, it has been sited to put every new resident within a safe 2-minute walk without crossing any major road of big high quality open green space, whether that's in the acre itself or around the edges of the site. The cycle greenway runs from the northern end of the acre up to the tolls, with an emphasis on safe cycling through the scheme. Other parts of the site provide a high-speed cycle link to the local centre along the new road, but these are more suited to experienced commuter cyclists. We're keen to encourage all forms of cycling for all types of user, different types of bike, less confident riders, families and so on. The cycle greenway carefully separates cars and riders without losing visibility and awareness, making sure that cyclists have a direct and clear route, whilst the cars change surfaces, change direction and generally stay at much lower speeds. To help people find their way around the first new homes, we're carefully designing the streets to work as places and not just as spaces for cars. The new link road will be a tree-lined avenue with the houses facing onto it, to help it feel like an active street through rather than just another fast road around. The secondary distributor road goes northeast towards the new local centre, but has been designed differently with more trees and a tighter street to change its character from the link road. The smaller streets that come off of the main roads are next. These are only meant for the new residents and have been designed to be much more winding and indirect to avoid them becoming rat runs. Otherwise, most of the new homes are accessed from smaller lanes, mews courtyards and shared driveways. These often touch the edges of the site and have been designed as places for people, where cars can only be at much lower speeds.
As you can see, we've put a lot of work into understanding the site in terms of its character and context and some of the constraints that apply. More importantly, we're now putting an awful lot of effort into building a master plan that responds to those constraints, that works around the key ecological corridors and the key landscape features, and builds in a lot of the local knowledge that's being fed to us through the development forum. The plans that you've seen so far are very much a work in progress. We do think that they're well thought out and that they respond positively to the key factors that we're aware of in terms of the development. But now is really the time when we're going out to seek the views of the public and of other key stakeholders to see if there's other things that we should be thinking of, if there's ways in which the plans could be adjusted or improved, and generally to seek comments and feedback.